Welcome to Hort Culture, where a group of extension professionals and plant people talk about the business, production, and joy of planting seeds and helping them grow. Join us as we explore the culture of horticulture. All right, listeners, I'm warning you up front. We are goofy, silly, funny today, so maybe a little awkward, maybe a little
bit
random.
giddy.
Every time.
A little bit giddy. Yeah, probably some words I'm not going to say on a UK platform. Other
Silly
words,
even.
but
yeah.
overall awesome, which is why you're here today. So thank you for being here. I'm so hyped on chocolate cake right now. So,
Health food.
I need you to be self-aware that the sugar rush is hella real.
It's rushing.
So.
I need you to be self-aware, I think. You are self-aware of it.
Oh, I'm self-aware. I need everybody else to just be ready.
You got cake? Why you got cake? Are we coming off of a national holiday?
I mean, the 26th is National Dog Day. So it technically is a national holiday. It also happens to be the day I was born on this planet.
Which is a national holiday.
There you
Pretty
go.
much a big deal. I am rolling into 34
always.
feeling prime.
I was going to say, last year your 20s. What are you going to do with it?
No, somebody else said that joke to me the other day, an older gentleman who's a good friend, and he said, so, and he knew how old I was, and he said, so 29 again, huh? And I said, no, hell no, I'm in my 30s, and I love it. So shout out to all of you who are 29 in real life, and maybe a little bit worried about turning 30. Your 30s are really great, okay? I'm just saying, 40s, I'm excited about my 40s, because if 30s were this great, 40s are going to be better. I just feel it. I just know it. Jessica,
so just to recap, Alexis just called me unoriginal, ageist, and not funny.
All of those things. Add to your growing repartee.
Okay, it was not you.
Okay.
But Brett did make me a very lovely arrangement with some beautiful...
I saw it. It was beautiful.
I'm still obsessing over these variegated pines in a way that I don't know is healthy. I'm like, how am I preserving them? They're so beautiful. So if you're interested in variegated pines, maybe we need to do a whole episode on just like unique conifers.
Yeah,
I feel like that's an episode.
That's coming. A cultivar of Japanese red pine, Pinus densiflora, that I have in my backyard.
Nice.
There was also some Japanese black pine in there. There was some Eastern white pine in there. There was some bald cypress in there.
Bald cypress, okay.
Bald cypress, and then a few flowers just to set it off. A couple of zinnias and a
hydrangea.
Hydrangea. That's the one.
It was texturally chef's kiss.
It's just a little different, a little offbeat,
I love it. It's sitting on my kitchen table.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well,
but anyways,
that being there, that flower arrangement being there has, how would you say it makes you feel, Alexis? And as you all think about, we all have had cut flowers. This is something we've been thinking about. How does it make us feel to interact with these plants? How does it maybe benefit our health? How does it impact ourselves? Our CCD team is now in our 25th anniversary. Our organization is 25 years old. We're going to have a little celebration with some good friends coming up here in September. And as part of that, one of the things we've been doing is trying to take a look at, obviously we're taking a look at the way that the CCD has grown and impacted people and tell that story. But part of it too is just thinking about this whole world of specialty crops and horticulture and the way that it impacts our lives. And so obviously that's a good fit for this podcast where we sometimes talk about our feelings. We sometimes talk about our identities and our well-being as human beings. So maybe before we jump in, I have some statistics here that we can talk about, but I just wanted, when you all think about the positive effect that horticulture and specialty crops has had on you, what comes to mind?
How deep are we going to go? Because I can say,
look, I'm on a journey with you. You are the conductor.
Okay. So my background, right? I grew up on a beef cattle tobacco farm, all of that, had kind of a garden. But when I graduated high school, my first job was at the horticulture research farm. And that was my first exposure to all these specialty crops. And that is where I met my husband. And now we have our own farm, and now we have our own growing specialty crops. And so I have a real deep connection to, those kind of things, because that is my life, I guess now. I don't know. How do I wrap that up and say that? Like, if
Yeah.
I think
it wasn't
there's
for me
always a
going to work
story
there, if I wasn't going to work there at that farm and getting that exposure to stuff that I had never really been around before, I would not be where I am today in this job as well. So
Jessica Cole crop met Sean Besson, and now they're raising a crop of Bessons together.
we do. We have a little crop of Bessons.
Bestest Bessons.
But yeah, so that's a great answer. That's a
pretty cool season.
much
Yeah.
bigger in scope and impact
All
than.
right, who's gonna follow that?
I'm gonna put you on a poster.
Who can follow that?
I would say the
I don't
specialty
wanna
crops
try.
have in part determined the course of my entire
Mary.
life. Okay,
Yeah.
Jessica, thank
My
you.
entire life.
The filter is very broad.
Yeah. What about you, Ray? And I mean, this could be small things too. It could be like I go out and see my garden and feel my blood pressure go down or something.
Yeah, as far as specialty crops go, I mean, I always had this feeling, professionally in my job, that there's usually some kind of story there. How do people go down a path? Because, I mean, by very definition of a specialty crop, it's sort of niche in some way or another. But I think about, things that I used to do and sell. And for a while, I sold some, like, I'll use an example of shiitake mushrooms, and got an appreciation for all the different things that's involved with a specialty crop as far as marketing that, because markets aren't established. And production's one thing. We talk a lot about that on the podcast. Production's one thing, marketing is another. Well, you have to be pretty good at both a lot of times with specialty crops. And you have to, if the market's not there, you have to do some education. You have to conceptualize and frame the product. So I think about those mushrooms and trying to sell those. And people ask questions, very good questions like, hey, did you find this in the woods? Will it poison me? Will I die? I mean, very relevant questions. So you have to involve yourself in maybe some different aspects of a crop that you're maybe not, as a producer, used to dealing with. In my case, it was that educational piece for the mushrooms that I was growing and selling, and people were unfamiliar with. So I kind of got an appreciation, and that was outside of my professional, duties, but it kind of gave me that perspective that's helped me in, my extension career with specialty crops. So if I could think of an example, that would be just one, as far as having a personal appreciation for all that goes into specialty crops and, getting those to market or to the end consumer in some cases, if that's what you're doing, if that's what your model is.
Well, two things, or something that I'm kind of hearing from both of your all stories, is that it kind of, the crops or the systems, whatever you want to call it, they were like this mechanism for like bridging a gap between people, or maybe enhancing communication or building a relationship in one way or another. I think that's a big part of it. It's a big part of this world of growing plants and eating and sharing. I think it's also probably a big reason why some of these things are associated with some of the health impacts that they are, is because it brings these social primates, that's maybe a redundant phrase, brings these primates together, mostly hairless primates together, to laugh and smile and eat and share. And turns out social beings being together and being social around familiar things makes us better off. I think that's an interesting kind of background or subcomponent for some of this stuff. But Alexis mentioned, so just as an example, I have some statistics here that are pulled from a variety of different studies. We're from the university, so we have the citations available on request. They'll eventually be on our website, probably, actually. But so here's one that there was a study done, eventually published in the Journal of Evolutionary Psychology, which found, cut flowers are a big part of our landscape now. People who receive cut flowers are less depressed, more likely to smile, more likely to start conversations, and generally act more sociably than those who received a control object or no object at all. So they gave people flowers, they gave people a pin, and they gave people nothing. And the cut flowers were
Oh,
the ones that had those effects. And I mean, it makes sense, but to see that experimentally corroborated is pretty interesting.
I think I know you were talking about cut flowers, but I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking just, about plants in general. And we've used the term, I think we used the term when Chad Nyman was on, of like biophilic design, which is, using botanical, whether that's plants or natural woods or these, natural things in your home. But anyways, they were talking about like kind of the rise on this like biophilic design style, and a lot of that and was, due to pandemic, and people were feeling, there were in a loneliness issue, right? There's people that are just feeling lonely, and that was at its height, and still is very much up there when you look at the actual numbers of people just generally feeling lonely. And how plants actually played a part, not only for people like taking care of something, maybe they couldn't have pets, or even if they do have pets, just something to care for. You get like instant kind of gratification when it's drooping, you water it, it looks better, right? And so there's kind of this instant thing, but also how it made connections with people, where even introverts who don't necessarily want to go out and do things with people in real life, in person, could, be online talking about plants with other people, and how it made connections. And it was really cool. And how, like, with plants, right, we can take cuttings and we give them to people, and it's something special. And I think that's like, when you give someone a plant, you won't always give just anyone a piece of your plant, right? Like, even if it's something that's really easy grow, number one, you want them to be excited about it. Not everybody's excited about plants, but you're also giving them something you've been keeping alive, right? So it's a little extra special when you give somebody a piece of a plant, and then they can give somebody, more, and blah, blah, blah. And so it creates this connection between all of us. And I don't know, it was cool to think of it that way, but from something that like doesn't talk and doesn't need you the way even a dog or cat would, how much connection they can bring for total strangers together.
And I think with specialty crops, a lot of times over the years, I've come to think of them as, and this is not just specialty crops, but specialty crops in particular. Sometimes you have a strong community of interest, and I'll use an example of a recent podcast that we did on maple syrup. It could be considered it's considered a specialty crop, and I worked with a group many years ago, and they were just kind of getting started. But they bonded over the fact that they were doing something a little bit different. They bonded over the fact that they were learning together from a base level. And I've noticed that about specialty crops. If they're learning together, they're growing together. And a lot of times that strengthens that interconnectedness. And that's a community of interest to me. It's something that's interesting, that a lot of times if you have some of these crops that may not be as well known or well established, or they're so new that people, when they come together, they're truly learning together from a base level. But when I think about the social aspect of, I think about the social aspect when I think of specialty crops, and it can be really neat when and we joked about beekeepers and the energy that they have. And I think beekeepers are kind of along those lines too. They're very passionate. If they're keeping bees, they're very passionate about it. And I don't know if you guys that have beekeeping clubs, Jessica, I mean, how long do they stay after the meeting? The second meeting happens in the parking lot after the meeting, and they're talking when I pull away and it's dark in the winter, and they're still going at 9:30 at night. It's amazing the energy these groups have,
right.
especially interest groups.
Yeah, like a lot of times with that group, which they're amazing, but I have to tell them and be like, all right, the alarm kicks on at 11 p.m. So just make sure the lights are out and you're out by 11, or you're going to set the
Yeah.
alarms off, because you're right. They'll often come maybe a little before and have like a pre-meeting. And then there's a official meeting, and then they stay for the afterwards to discuss and kind of like fellowship, right, with each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
With serious questions, or just catching up and
Just
all of
hanging
that,
out.
but all been brought
Just
together
depends.
by the love of beekeeping.
Or if you're at a fruit and veggie conference, we talked about this before, but I'll notice a small subset over there that's doing something unique with a dwarf peach tree or whatever, but they have this little niche interest that's a kind of a break off from the main group. And I've noticed groups over the years that's the one time a year they'll get together, hang out, and they're just, they have this level of excitement about seeing each other. Is
That's
that
a
sort of the things you're getting at, Brett?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Specialty
I think
crops, specialty crops.
what were you going to say, Jess?
I was just saying, like, that's a good point, right? With the fruit and vegetable conference to see the strawberry growers all get
Hmm.
together, or the apple
Yeah,
growers, or
yeah.
the different groups like that.
It's
Or
pretty cool.
I've
Yeah.
been to a couple of the apple grower meetings, and when those guys get together, seeing how excited they are to talk with each other and share things, it's pretty cool.
Well, one thing you hear about those conferences and is this idea of farm to school, and I think schools are an example. We're talking about the sociability angle. Schools are this place where kids learn all kinds of stuff about how to interact with people, how to interact with institutions, how to eat. And another little stat I have here is that 61% of schools participating in farm to school programs reported increased fruit and vegetable consumption by their students. And
Aw.
that's from the farm to school census that came out of USDA a couple years ago. And I think that it's just this real testament. I mean, I don't know. We're in a very important. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole. We're in a very important moment for how we understand our public institutions and what they're supposed to be doing, and how we should be able to hold them to account or not. But I think it just speaks to, like, man, schools are feeding so many kids every day. I mean, it's just like a passive, huge impact. I mean, there's lots of work and
Mhm.
energy and stuff that goes into that, but
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was pretty wild. Turns out you connect people a little bit more, and they're eating more fruits and vegetables.
I mean, it's an age range. I mean, it's a formative kind of years, but there's a lot going on there, both formal and non-formal education. Just a very social aspect of being together as a group, learning together. In addition to the primary topics or primary subject matter. I mean, just the way that they approach food, just because it's served in that setting. I mean, that's not probably by explicit design. It's not an intended outcome, but it's all part of the story, isn't it? That's kind of seems like you could, delve into that based on some of
Yeah.
those stats. I mean, in that case, it was a specific design. Um, for
Were
the
you
school.
all vegetable eating kids, or did you
Yeah,
take some cajoling in order to eat those
for the
vegetables?
most part, because that's what was available. That's, what we canned and had during the wintertime. If we didn't eat the canned stuff mom had preserved, then we were kind of out of luck.
It's kind of
No, I
opposite.
liked. You were the opposite, Jess.
Yes and no. My mom will kill me for saying this, but we all say it. My mom doesn't like eat anything green. Okay, that's like the joke.
Don't like
So,
green food.
we have green beans, right? We can green beans, but it wasn't until I was older I found out that she didn't eat any of them, and she
Did
canned
she
all these
eat the
green
did
beans.
she eat the bacon out of the green beans?
Yeah, I think so. But it wasn't until it's funny, they've teased me at work about it. Like, I went to, like, college, and I had more of, like, this, like, food awakening, like, exposure
Mhm.
of, like, getting to try all these new foods versus, like, I don't know, wasn't as big into partying, right? So I was just like, "Oh, cool. What's an avocado? This is great," like,
Let's party
thinking
Who
avocado.
like I
needs to
knew
party when there's
there's
avocados?
No,
avocados and there's like
seriously.
different fruits and vegetables and stuff. And then also working at that research farm had that exposure to it. And now, of course, I love that stuff. And hopefully, my kids they seem to enjoy vegetables.
Well, one of your sons asked for carrots and hummus for his birthday, so I feel
Hmm.
like you're doing a good thing.
Well, thank you. He's very
But
passionate about carrots and hummus.
Something's
can you
working.
remember other, like, foods in general, but vegetables or whatever, that you had those, besides avocado, that you had those awakening moments about, like dishes? Or I'm very curious about this because some
Like,
people point and say, like, kids have to be exposed to this when they're young, otherwise they won't like it or whatever. And I think that there is some stuff about that, but there's also this other element of having multiple acts in your life that you can change paths. So
right,
any
I can
memories about that?
I can think about, well, one, just and I talk about this all the time, just with work, like having vegetables in their peak ripeness, right?
Mhm.
Like I had
Mm.
had a tomato before, but I was like, ugh. Now, this past month, I've ate so many tomatoes that I was just
Same,
like,
same,
I think
yeah.
my teeth are getting sensitive. I need to slow it down
Do you carry
because
a salt shaker in your vehicle when you're harvesting?
I don't, yeah, like they're that good.
I
Um,
did, yeah, it's,
or like, or cantaloupes or watermelons. Like I didn't really care for those before, but I had never had like a truly one that was actually ripe, like,
Mm.
um, something else. I was just lost my train of thought of like one of those other. Oh,
You
like
just were thinking
I've
about
had
tomatoes.
broccoli. Yeah, I was thinking about tomatoes. Broccoli, like I had it growing up, but it was always like in a
Cooked to death.
casserole, right?
Mhm.
So then having just broccoli or Brussels sprouts, like roasted, game changing, roasted vegetables, right? So one of those that was, just being able to like cook more on my own and cook with other people who had different with my roommates who had different upbringings and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, so staying on this theme of institutions and diet and food and vegetables and all that kind of stuff, there's been some research through associated with the CCD, Dr. Tim Woods and Dr. Jairus Rossi, working with some workplace wellness programs and specifically sponsoring CSA vouchers. So CSA program in general, you pay up front. You may pay, let's say $700 at the beginning of the season, and you get a weekly share throughout the course of the season. Well, there's these projects, and you can read about these on our website, where the employer, like UK, for instance, UK is a self-insured employer, so they pay for their employees' insurance as part of the benefits package, and they have their own internal thing. Anyway, they would put up $200 to me, UK employee. I've taken advantage of this every year that they've offered it, to get a CSA share. And so at the beginning of the year, I don't owe $700. I just owe $500. And what they found is in that process of kicking in that money, for every dollar that was invested in CSA vouchers, they actually saved $2.47 in diet-related medical expenses for the people who were starting out the program in poor health. So in other words, if you started in poor health, you did a CSA, the voucher pushed you over the edge, you actually saw some health improvement and some saved expenses. And this has been one of the key rallying points for trying to support those types of programs. But it's another example where a lot of times in the United States, we get caught up, I think, in like personal choice. And that there's a big place for that. But there's also a huge place, I think, for conversations around institutions and how we can better create environments. So what do y'all have any reactions to that?
I think CSA is fun too because for most of them, I mean, there is some choice in, some of the bigger farms, but it's like you get what you get. And if you've never tried chard before, then you're probably gonna, they send recipes and stuff along with them. Then, you've never tried chard before, or you have tried it, but it's been real weird, but you paid for this. So you're going to eat it
yeah.
somehow and then, try something new, with that, which is when I was getting a CSA, that was always something fun to try something new. And luckily, all the CSAs I've been a part of, when they send something weird or just not something that most people eat, they would always send a recipe like, here, if you've not tried this very strange zucchini cucumber thing, try it this way.
It makes you reach and kind of grow a little bit in some cases, grow your food palate or whatever. It makes you try things. I mean, and now it's information on new recipes is readily available. If you did get a recipe, great. If you didn't, you can get a hold of those through various methods. But I think CSAs are pretty cool when I talk to people at the farmers market and they get such and such in their shares that they're not used to using. They say, well, that really forced us to kind of think about it. And then it became a thing where we kind of searched and we really like this that we never would have tried. And that's a really cool kind of effect of CSAs is, and I hear that all the time that people say, I never would have tried this or that unless it was and now we eat it all the time. And that's a really kind of a cool thing that comes out of CSA sometimes, I think, like you're saying, Alexis.
I don't have any data in front of me to back it up, but I think
Loser.
speaking of
Anecdotal.
have to look that up and shoot you some references later. But
please do.
I think
APA format, please.
Please. Rigor.
12-point PITFA. I think that the same thing could probably be said about flowers. And even though it's, speaking of CSA, I know it's not something they're eating, like physical health and wellness, but you've got people who maybe will get a flower or CSA share as a gift, right? For, Christmas or a birthday or something. It's not normally something they would buy for themselves, but they're, picking up these flowers every week. They realize how much happier it makes them when they see them, when they walk into a room. You hear a lot of people say that flowers make them feel like they have their act together. Like there's something about having a nice vase of flowers, even if the kitchen is a mess, you have a nice vase of flowers in there, and it just kind of gives you a little Martha Stewart vibe. You're like, you know what?
Mood
I'm not,
boost.
I've got something together here. It's like when all your plates match or all your dishes match. When I turned 30, I was like, I want my dishes to match. But I think, there's a sense of, wellness that goes along even, with flowers. I need to see if there's been some research done specifically on that. There's lots of good flower research out there, but I feel like it's several years behind even the vegetable stuff for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Well, as I was looking this stuff up, I was sending our CCD team little tidbits that I was finding here and there, and one of them was that let's see here, flower colors in blue and white have been found to be the most relaxing. Orange, white, yellow, and red were the most uplifting.
Energy.
Here's the thing, though: we're all people. We all have our preferences. A respondent's favorite color of flower promoted restorative effects at the highest level for that individual. So, we do, you like what you like, and don't be ashamed of that. That's something, I think, if I were marketing a weekly a weekly flower CSA, I'd be like, son, give the gift of a weekly antidepressant, give the gift of a weekly smile, give the gift of a weekly be able to talk to your coworkers and get through the week better, sociability thing. But one of the things, Ray, you mentioned about, or multiple of you all mentioned about the like pushing people to try new things or pushing people to eat maybe a little bit different vegetables or different things than what they're used to. One of the things that in some of that CSA research from out of the University of Kentucky, one of the interesting things is that the biggest increase in consumption as far as specific vegetables was salads, because you do get a lot of greens in the CSA, lettuces and kales and other greens. And these are, I grew up on iceberg salad mix, so no snobby shade, but this is not iceberg lettuce. These are phytonutrient dense greens that you feel, you start to glow after you eat enough of them. And that's important because of this next statistic, which is really interesting. So the brains of people who eat higher amounts of leafy greens compared to peers decline slower, such that the brains of the highest leafy green eaters appear on imaging up to 11 years younger.
Wow.
That's crazy.
11,
Isn't that
imagine
crazy?
gaining 11 more years of like cognitive ability in your age. Like that's
Yeah.
incredible.
I mean, you
Eat
could also
more.
think of it as
More greens.
immaturity. I've got the brain of a 12-year-old.
Man. I've too much salads, Brett. Too much salads.
Too much
Lay off
salad.
the
Yeah.
salad.
Ugh.
Yeah, lay off the salad.
I keeps laughing at fart jokes. Give
The,
them
the,
less,
the tipping
less
point
It
has
starch,
occurred,
explains a
less.
lot
Brett.
of your jokes,
Your
Brett.
bell curve, you're on the other
Your
side of
vegan
that.
years
I'm
explain a
mature.
lot of your jokes.
Well, while
It's
we're
all
in
the
the realm
kale.
of the dietary, this is one that I think is kind of goes around a good bit. But for every 2 cups of additional fruit and vegetables that you eat, your overall mortality risk, your overall risk of just dying from anything, goes down by 10%. Your risk of stroke goes down by 16%, and your risk of heart disease goes down by 8%. And the thing is, this benefit accrues all the way up to 8 cups of fruit and vegetables. So in other words, if you eat 2, you are 10% less likely to die than someone who ate 0. And if you go to 4, then you're 10% less likely to die, et cetera. And so there's a stacking effect. Our dietitian friends would say servings add up, or servings really, make an impact or something. But it's just one of
Or
these like sometimes I think we can get jaded and lose sight in our diet driven culture or our youth driven culture or whatever. But there really is an element here of like quality of life and feeling good has tremendous value. And it's not just economic value. It's not just we're saving money for the health insurance companies. It's, wow, I feel better. I feel sharper. I
Mhm.
feel less tired. I feel like I don't have headaches, hypertension headaches and all those things, and I think that it's good to remind ourselves sometimes in a health obsessed culture that sometimes health is pretty cool, actually.
And I
I
think
just want
that's
to be
one.
able to
Oh,
like.
sorry.
Sorry, I'm going to say
No,
something silly to your probably intelligent comment, but so I just want to be able to like jump down out of a chair without my knees hurting too bad.
yes,
Like
please.
if that means I can just if I eat an extra salad a couple times a week,
It's
I'm
not going to
in.
hurt.
Okay.
No, the only thing I was going to say that, and I've heard of FCS agents, family consumer sciences agent within the university say this, and it's something that's stuck with me. We've talked about CSAs, as one aspect of the conversation, but the cool thing about CSAs is this, as it relates to eating. They talk about you have to be exposed to something so many times to form a habit. And then CSAs, if let's say it's an 8 or 10 week CSA and you're exposed every week to some kind of salad material or something that's appropriate to go in a salad, they say you stand a much bigger chance of actually developing a habit that's going to have some longevity. And I get that. That sort of tracked in my brain. I was like, then you get used to fixing something and then you get used to putting it on the quick pick list for your shopping app. And then you start picking that up even when the CSA goes away, and I thought, dang, that's pretty cool because that is going to develop into something that's got some legs. It's going to have some longevity to it. I mean, if you're exposed to something once or twice and you're like, wow, that's really good. But if you're exposed to that for 10 weeks, it becomes a normal sort of thing that you just
Mhm.
do. So that I thought that was really awesome as far as that's an aspect of a CSA and some of the good local healthy food, fresh food that you're getting. Really a cool thing. And maybe their knees aren't going to pop and lock or pop. I'm sorry, not pop and lock. Yeah, their knees aren't
You
going to
might wanna
pop
When
like
pop
they
and
mine
lock,
pop,
did.
lock,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
drop,
yeah.
they get
You may
back
be
up.
able to,
That's the
hey, maybe 11 years longer than you normally would be able to pop and lock.
just
That is
imagine
not
being able
research.
to
That is
pop,
not
lock, and drop
research
it
based.
11
Yep.
more
I'm
years.
going to have to talk to a kinesiologist about that and get confirmation from that. But
I do
maybe that's a benefit.
I do think you can pop, lock, and drop it at any age. It's a matter of
Yes.
whether you can lift it
Whether
back up
it lifts
off.
it back,
It's the
yes, it's
Yeah.
popping
the
back up.
lifting.
If it
The
unlocks, will it unlock? We don't
You
know.
can perform any of those moves
Will it
once.
pop back to where it once was? I don't.
Yeah. I'm at the stage in my life where I'm the pop and stop because if it pops, I'm stopping. Yeah.
Pop, lock, drop, stop.
Yes.
And
The
then roll.
stop. Don't confuse that with a stop, drop, and roll. This is the pop, lock, and stop maneuver. Yes.
Well,
Because
Ray, you
your back is so locked up that you have to stop.
Yes. I'm stopping at this point.
just
Yes.
stop. It's just a stop, hard stop.
Hard.
Well, Ray, you made me. You triggered my annual ode to peaches, to seasonal peaches.
Ode
Oh,
to
It
With
peaches.
is.
your with
It is
your
yum.
time. It is time.
that so because we've been with your idea of like, oh, you get used to it, or you like sort of have that. We have had a big thing of we go out, I don't know, maybe once a week and get a big thing of peaches.
Wow.
And
That's
these
long.
are coming in from out of state, but they're at least from the region and they're seasonal.
Yeah. Sure.
And we've had them now for, I don't really know, it feels like months, and I'm so used to it and I'm not over it and I'll never be over it, but it's coming to a conclusion. And that's an example of now I've built this habit that I am not going to be able to
Oh man.
fulfill. I mean, I'll just transition to apples. I'll wean myself off of peaches onto apples and act like Annie prefers apples. My wife prefers apples. I'll just act like, oh yeah, it's the same. It's not the same.
Well,
It's
maybe
not
you
the
can
same.
get the sweeter end of apples because the good thing about apples is there's a tart spectrum and then this sweeter. So
I
maybe you
think
could.
it's a
I know it's not a
texture thing.
direct thing. Okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
think it's a
Okay.
definitely like a
texture thing.
crunch
It's like,
versus like
Brett,
a
you and
juicy
my
fruit.
son could sit in a corner and cry together because we had a lot of peaches as well, and then they're done, right? We don't have them anymore, and he still asks, like, "Why can't we have another peach?" And I'm like, "'Cause a peach is a special thing, and they're done. We have to wait till next year." And he's been very sad about that. He is learning at almost 5 years old about seasonal crops. Same thing with the cherries. Cherry
Oof.
season is over. We can
Oh,
no
yeah.
longer get those cherries because those are gonna be gross.
Brett, where do you
They're
stand on
Yeah.
canned peaches? Brett,
I like canned peaches. I do.
how
It's a
about you,
different
Jessica?
thing.
Your family,
They're just
yeah,
different things.
yeah, okay.
Mhm.
It's like a
Fresh
fresh green
versus
bean and a
canned.
canned green bean. I love canned green beans. I love fresh green beans, but they're not the same. They're not the same
Yep.
thing.
Yeah, that is a
Same thing with
different.
sweet corn.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. I love them both.
Cream
They're
corn is
different
very
products.
sweet, but it's not sweet corn by itself. Yeah, I get it.
Mhm.
Sure.
Mm.
The season of sadness is coming up, aka the peach
Yeah.
free season.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, so I cannot say that this next tip will prevent heartbreak related ambulance calls for me, but I can say that areas that have 5% or more tree canopy cover had 80% fewer heat related ambulance calls.
That seems to
So wait, is
seems to
that
track.
correlation or causation?
The two are not the same.
Association.
Ooh, I
Association.
like that proximity association.
Yeah. I
So
would say
now,
it would be
what
difficult
was?
to prove that. But so
Yeah,
areas,
yeah.
if you compare areas that have more than 5% tree canopy cover, like in a neighborhood, with areas that have less than that, that seems to be like a tipping point. The areas that have more canopy cover have 80% fewer heat related ambulance calls. And when we have
I kind
crazy
of feel
heat
that.
waves,
Yeah.
huh?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
sort of a functional thing, but when I go to a zoo, I will pick a zoo or a theme park or whatever. I will pick one that has more shade because that's the dad in me that doesn't want to.
Very true, Ray. I do the
I
same
mean, do you
thing.
do that? I do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, now you know that doesn't have a lot of shade at XYZ place. Let's go to this. Hey, if I have my
Cute Ray and
choice.
I walking around an arboretum, and luckily it's an
Yes.
arboretum, so there's lots of trees. But we were like finding every ounce of shade there was, and like standing really
Yes.
close together
Perfect.
in small shaded areas because
We
we
were
were like,
just
we can't
looking out
stand in
for
the
our
sun.
health. Yes. Yes. Exactly. But oh
No,
yes,
I
that
believe
Brett,
that.
that one makes sense.
Yeah, when I worked in as an agent, I worked on a program where we planted trees every year. It was a plant for part of a grant from KU, which is Kentucky Utilities, and called Plant for the Planet. And we would get matching funds from people in the city. And so I think in my 10-year stint of like being on that program, that team, we planted about 500 trees throughout Danville, and we kind of ran out of space because Danville had a lot of old trees, and so even though it was supposed to be like city funds that we're using it for, we ended up like pushing it out further into some of the smaller communities that maybe didn't have like the sort of funding, and we're able to push that out with of course permission from people who donated, but it was really exciting. And the whole goal was that we want to shade every walking area in the city for people who wanted to be able to, travel if they didn't have a car, or if they just wanted to go for a walk and better their health and all these things. And a lot of people, towards the end, those trees that we planted that first year, they're 10 years old, starting to really shade things. And, it was much more pleasant to be downtown with all the trees.
Absolutely.
Stormwater, all
Yeah,
that jazz.
just to give you a sense, so 5%. This was 5% difference. So like the city of Lexington, the core of the city of Lexington, if you're familiar with it, is about 25% canopy covered. With some of our neighborhoods, above 30%. And so I was just double checking to make sure that I had those figures right. So I mean, 5%. I mean, you're not asking for a
It's
ton,
not
and
a
that
lot.
amount can make a
No.
big difference. And there was it's reminding me of our recent conversation with our friend Jack Baggett about Tree City USA and all of the.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't checked out that episode and you're interested in that kind of stuff, just talking about urban forestry and urban reforestation. We had a program that the city was offering where they were putting in trees that would be good shade trees for this exact reason, because There's all kinds of other cascading effects of trees in terms of slowing rainwater runoff. And we talked about this on a previous episode too with our friend, former Hort Culture host, Josh Knight. There's a publication about the ecosystem services of trees. And one of the things that's crazy, and the way that he described it, I think is really evocative, is like, imagine that it rains and then it stopped raining, and you go outside and you reach up and you grab a branch of one of the trees that's outside and you shake it while you're standing under it. You're going to get soaked. And what happens is, not only is the tree soaking up the water through its roots and using the water and all that kind of stuff, but it's literally storing a bunch of water on its leaves and in its structure, which then slows down the amount of water that goes out, which slows down flooding, slows down runoff, slows down all those things. And it's just this really, obviously, I have an insane love of trees compared to the average person, but I think that they are also very easy to love. How about that?
There you go. It's an easy thing.
Yeah. So I thought we would close out the episode with a little bit of trivia, guessing. I don't know what. This is not health statistics now. All that's behind us now. We're getting into the heartwarming science of economics. That was a joke.
Is there that side?
So I went and looked at, the CCD, our organization. I mentioned we've been around for 25 years. Well, we have been collecting price reports from farmers markets and other markets for 21 of those 20 years, or those 25 years. And so I wanted you all to guess, how much do you think the average price at all reporting markets, farmers markets, the average price in 2004 for 1 pound of tomatoes, and that same average price for 1 pound of tomatoes in 2024? Do you have any guesses? Start the clock, Alexis.
Gosh, I would not, because,
I know
volume versus per pound. Yeah.
Yeah. I know what they're selling them for now. Per pound.
And this is all markets. So it includes the rural markets that have the lower price. And this is the overall seasonal average.
So Jessica, let's knowing your community and knowing some urban markets are in here, we could add 15% to get an adjusted current price, and then back that off by 35% to get an adjusted backwards price. So
that's a lot of math right now.
You can also just guess. We could take this as seriously.
Let's do $1.50 a pound.
I was going for make up numbers. Yes.
Okay. So your guess for 2004 was $1.50. Is that right? We should do it Price is Right style. So if you go over, you bust. If you don't,
I'm going to do $1.50.
What about you, Ray?
$1.48.
Oh,
Ray, tack it.
You did the wrong thing.
Yeah, I went the wrong way.
Alexis, you got to guess?
I feel like I know too much. I feel like I'm too deep into this, to be fair.
The answer for 2004 tomatoes, $1.25 a pound.
Ray.
You both went over. You both busted. We have no one to do the showcase.
We did.
What about 2024? What about 2024?
I'm going to say I might be, if this is average across the state, it might be going over, but $3.
Seasonal averages, is this across the entire season?
Seasonal average, entire state, urban and rural markets all
I was going to say about
what weighted is
$2.50 to $2.75.
Oh yeah, I was like, $2.50 maybe.
No, $3.13 per pound average.
Good. I'm proud of that. I was going low, because if you adjust that forward for inflation and time and everything, it should probably be more than that. But I was going low, knowing how these things go.
Feel like it's more than that this year.
Do you all want another price kind of uplifting fun one, or do you want one that's a little more of a downer?
Oh.
No, well, downer.
Preferably a fun one.
End on a good note.
Fun one?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do a fun one. Well, why don't we do a downer and then we'll end on a fun one? How about that?
Okay. Sandwich it. Compliment sandwich.
What percent would you guess the increase in fertilizer costs on average has been from 2000 to the year 2025?
500%.
across all like nutrients or just
It's just that, just kind of an average of
okay,
all of them.
200%. Let's go double. Nice round
I'll
number.
do 100%. But I feel like it's more I feel like it's higher than
Average
that.
average fertilizer costs increased 224% between 2000
Jeez,
and 2024.
Wow.
That's not adjusted
wow,
for inflation.
it's
So
wild.
it's somewhere between doubling and tripling. Okay, we'll end on a positive one here. How about? Oh, I got so many good ones though.
The
Okay,
data nerds
we'll
coming
bring it back. We were talking about green beans. We're talking about Jessica's mom canning green beans but not eating them. Beans are a quintessential Kentucky crop, a staple at farmers markets. 2004 average price per pound for beans in Kentucky at farmers markets. Same thing as the tomatoes. All markets across the state, seasonal average per pound, average price 2004.
in. Oh gosh.
Keep in
I
mind,
have no
tomatoes were
idea how much
$1.25 a
this
pound in
75
2004.
cents.
I was gonna say I was in a very rural market at that time, so mine would have been. Well, I guess we're doing an average though. You're probably pretty close, Jessica. Mine would have been a little lower. I'd have went 60 cents where I was at, but
No,
I was in a very different market then.
$1.25.
Wow.
beans went for $1.53 per pound in
Okay.
2004 reporting markets.
Dang!
More per pound than tomatoes, which kind of makes sense to me. And in
Well, there's more
2024,
of them, yeah.
2024 pound per pound price. I'll give you a hint. It
$3.
follows the trend of relative to tomatoes, and tomatoes were $3.13 per pound in 2024.
350.
221%. Hmm. Hmm.
375.
$3.97 a pound for beans on average
Dang!
in 2024 at
Okay.
our farmers
Which
markets in
makes more
Kentucky.
sense
Yeah.
because a lot of that probably as much as anything is just consumer preference on quantity plays into that
Hmm.
too, I bet. I mean,
Yeah.
like just we personally sold by the volume, by bushel. So pound to me, I'm like, oh, I'm out of touch with that. As far as over the change over time, but does that track, Brett? Do you know right off? Does that track based on what input cost? I mean, if you're following like an actual realistic track of input output.
My assumption is that most of that is labor associated labor.
Yeah, the big inputs.
I don't know because the farmers market prices are. Let's just do a quick
Yeah, I
math.
don't know. That's a
Yeah,
pretty
it
complex.
is about on par.
Is it good?
Beans are a little faster, a little. The price went up a little bit more. If it's like me, it's because they got tired of picking them, and if somebody wants to pay them $4 a pound, then I'll
Listen,
pick them. But
you're gonna
otherwise,
pay for it. Yeah, yeah. There
Yeah.
you
yeah.
go.
Well, I appreciate you all indulging my concept here for some fun statistical rundowns. So these will be eventually on a poster and some other formats at our event that's coming up, and we'll also have those posters we'll be taking around to different events throughout the state in the coming months and years. So you'll be able to check them out and scan a QR code to get the citations, because I know we're all very hardcore citations needed here. Yeah. Cool.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, all the statistics that I have
All the
come
stats for
with.
today.
Yes.
Now everybody has great trivia things that they can share at a party where they bring a salad and they can share trivia
Then
about
do
how their
economic
salad is going to
statistical
make you live
trivia.
11
And
times longer.
if you're going to play Trivial Pursuit at a party, feed yourself salad before, but don't feed anyone else salad, and you'll have a
Feed your
competitive
brain.
advantage.
Have the
That's right.
You'll be
advantage.
reverse aging your brain in order to win.
And wear your shirt that says "Kel." Yeah.
Words of wisdom from Mr. Brett Wolf today. But, well, we thank you for being with us today and having us in your earbuds. Hopefully you're, getting some plant stuff happening while you're listening to us. That's one of my favorite times to listen to podcasts is when my hands are in the dirt. So I hope that you are getting some of that as well here lately. Follow us on Instagram at Hort Culture Podcast, and I need to be posting more on there. We've got a lot of cool things we've talked about lately, and I just need to get on it. So I apologize, but we do check messages because I do get updates on that. So if you have any thoughts, please feel free to share those. You can also shoot us an email. We've been getting more lately. We really appreciate you guys reaching out with ideas of people to interview or just things you want to listen to. Otherwise, it's just us four goofballs coming up with something. So we love having that. So send it our way if you think of something that we might like. You can also leave us a review, which helps other people find us. You can also send us ideas of things that they want to hear and people that they want to hear from. Well, we really appreciate you spending some time with us, and we hope that you join us next time. Have a great one.